Hi, I'm Paul Brodie. Mitch behind the cameras. Welcome back. It's bicycle related stuff today. Some of you seem to get pretty excited about the bicycle content, and that's good. We've got a Gatorblade fork here. It's an early one. It's got the curved blades. These were made as a batch back in 1988, I believe. We were in our shop in Richmond. And these forks are a little bit on the rare side because they're old, and we only made 100, I'm guessing. What we need to do on this, it's a friend's fork and I'm helping him out. We're going to put on we're going to take off the canty bosses, we're going to put on U-brake bosses, and the steerer tube needs to be extended a little bit. So I've made a drawing here. This is basically the inside of the tube. It's got a butt. Can you see how it tapers in? So this wall thickness is about 2.8 millimeters, and then up here it's 1.6. If I've got some tubes here, you can see the difference, can't you? 1.6 and 2.8, because this has to be heavy duty and strong because you don't want it to break. I was talking with a friend yesterday, and early on, this was years ago, he had a frame and he had a fork, and the fork was too short in the steer tube, so he took it to a welding shop, and what they did is they cut it off right here above the crown, and they just welded it back on, maybe TIG weld or something, and it broke. You can't do that. You can't just hack it off and then weld on another tube. So what's going to happen here? Let me grab a felt pen. Okay, you see the butt here? And I made this piece because when I'm doing this kind of thing, I need to know where the butt is. So this fits into the steerer. It's a little smaller than the actual stem. And so it goes down and then it hits against the butt. So then I make a mark and I pull it out. And then I know for sure where the butt starts. So this mark is right there. Does that make sense? So I need a section here because I'm going to put a reinforcement in. This is the only piece I could find that's going to work. It's way too thick, but that's what I got. So I'm going to cut it about here. And then the reinforcement can go in, and I'm going to put a little taper on there. So the reinforcement is going to go a little bit into the butt, and then it's going to go up to here. And then that's where that tube goes on. So I'm going to cut it right there, and then this tube will go on like that. And that's how we make it longer. Okay, so the first thing we'll do is we'll light the torch. We're going to melt these off, and then we're going to put on the new bosses. Got new bosses. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so I got the torch going. I'm going to put a lot of heat into the bosses and not so much into the fork blade. I just got to heat. If the boss gets red hot, that's fine. It doesn't matter because it's not going to get used again. It just becomes scrap metal. So here we are. Got a little bit of a hot flame. Not crazy. So I get it nice and hot so that the braid, because all the braze has to melt for it to come off. You can't just melt one side and expect the other side to let go as well when it's not as warm. It doesn't work like that. So 1988, that was like 38 years ago this fork got made. I never thought these old frames and forks would become so collectible. Had no idea. Okay, it's getting hot now. That brace holds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, it's actually nickel silver. Even though it's getting pretty hot. There we go. So it's gonna fall on the floor. Okay, I've got the wire brush because now I heat it up and I brush the nickel silver. Then I don't have to file as much. Okay, that's one side done. There we go. Okay, stage one is done. Our channel, we've been doing it for over 6 years, and Mitch added up all the videos. Got 276 videos out there. Kind of amazing, and we don't use AI. I just wanted to mention that. Everything here is real. So you notice I got the file at an angle. I'm not going like that. That might make a little mark, a stress riser. So I'm always going at an angle. I got my handy belt sander. If you watch the video, it shows how it got made. It's custom. So here we go. So I'm always, see how I'm at an angle? I'm not at a 90, always at an angle. And you see how I press down and it bends? So it kind of wraps around a little bit, okay? Okay, I got 80 grit, inch wide. It's a cloth backing. And see, looks good. You can't tell there's been a boss on there, really. So the next thing that's going to happen is we got the fixture. I got a dummy axle, 100 millimeters. So we put that up into the dropouts. And that's what locates the U-boss fixture. So I can move these back and forth. And the spacing, I was looking through my notes yesterday. So it's going to go something like that. And I can raise and lower this so that the boss is at a right angle with the fork blade. So I got a couple bosses here. These ones are used. They got taken off, but it's not a big deal. And I might have to miter this. So I got the mill set up. And we're going to measure. Probably it goes, not sure. Let's see what happens. See how there's an offset? It's not mitered right in the middle. We'll see what happens when I put the offset to the inside. Yeah, see how high it is? That's one of the problems putting on the boss is because you got to heat up the tube and you're right next to the crown. So that's but it is silver solder, so okay, so this has to come up a little bit because I can see that it's not. Okay, that looks pretty good there. It's 88 millimeters, something like that. It's not hard and fast, it's just an approximate. So we're at 86 here, so that's pretty good. So that'll work. I don't think I have to miter them. I think I just have to clean out the silver solder. But I'll show you over here anyway, just if I do need to miter them, I'll show you what I got here. Can you see here I've got got a fixture in the vise, and I can put in the boss like that, eyeball it to make sure it's, and then I would miter it like that. So if you do need to miter it, and you can move this back and forth so it changes the offset, okay? But these ones seem to be pretty good, so I'm gonna just use a file and some sandpaper here, clean that up, and I think these ones are gonna work just fine. Anyway, that's how we miter. So we'll set the jig up, and then I'll flux it, go back in the park stand, and do a little silver soldering. So I've got to set the spacing now. See how the spacing's the same? It's not shifted one way or the other. Maybe it could go up just a little bit here. Okay, so that looks good. We're going to flux it up. So this is the silver solder flux that I like. There's some black stuff out there, and I've tried that, and I don't like that, but this stuff I like. It's the Gas Flux Company. It's type U. Okay, there's my silver solder, and it really helps if you take the shine off the outside, it just flows better. It's going to take a bit of heat because there's see this here? There's an internal lug that goes down to about here. And the crown's going to suck up some heat as well, so see what happens. Can you see that? Can you see it wicking? And you notice how I started here, went around, and I did this part last, because this is going to take the most heat right here, because this is a heat sink. And there's also, I've got the internal butt inside there. Now for the other side. Silver salt is working very nicely today. Almost like I know what I'm doing. It's very satisfying when silver soldering goes well. And when it doesn't go well, it can be very, very frustrating. That's when you overheat and the flux burns and it doesn't want to flow. Beautiful. Okay, I've found out that the steer tube has to be 6 1/4 inches long. So this is extra threads. So if I cut, if that is the 6 1/4 mark right about here, and then that's enough room for the lock ring, and I got enough threads there. Okay, there's my cut mark. I'm going to cut it right there because that's where the butt starts. Remember the start of the video? We talked about that. See how I got 6 1/4 marked with a felt pen? So I put that to that mark, and it looks like we're going to cut it. I'm going to cut it right there, and we'll face it in the lathe. So I'm going to cut that. Then I got my 6 1/4. And then this is overkill, but it's the only piece I have. It's a nice piece of tubing. It's DOM, which means it is drawn over mandrel. There's no seams inside there. It's nice. So this is the right ID, so that I've got about 80 thou of wall thickness on the, can't think of the word right now, for the reinforcement tube. I'll call it that. You know what I'm talking about. So we're going to cut this. Then we're going to measure the insides. And then because these probably aren't exactly the same size. And I want them to be size on size, which means that I have to tap them in. They don't just fall in. And it'll make a nice job, and then it gets TIG welded, filed down. You don't know it's there. I've got a telescoping gauge. These are also called snap gauges. Can you see how it moves like that? And then you lock it. So we'll see what kind of sizes they are. And we'll see if they're round as well, because sometimes tubes aren't round. So you see what I do? See how I'm moving this back and forth so I can feel there's a little bit of friction, just a tiny little bit. And then I look at the dial. So to make sure that I'm measuring it right, I'll just get a ballpark off the digital caliper. So it's 880 about. So yeah, it's just, it was actually 870. This is the lower one. So we'll call it 880. That's in thou. We'll measure this way as well. See if it's round. See how you move it? So it goes over center. Then that's your measurement. So there's a big difference, because that's almost 875. So look at the difference. It's 5 thou out of round. So I have to take that into consideration. So I probably go halfway. Almost 879. And then if I measure this way, if you don't do this, you're not going to get a good fit. Well, you can still do this and not get a good fit, but hopefully. Oh, look at that. 878. Okay, so this is rounder than what this is. 878. So I could make it all about 878.8785, something like that. That would work for both of them, because this number is in the middle of those two numbers. So we have to cut this. We're going to need about about 1.5 inches, so that each side gets about 3/4 of an inch, something like that. So we're going to go for 878, and the ID's fine. So we'll take these over, and as I get down to that size, we can see how it wants to fit. Okay, that's good. It's on size. Okay, so I think that's gonna, so that goes into right there. And I think it'll hammer on a little bit more too. Okay. So we're gonna hammer this into here. We're gonna hacksaw it off. Then we'll put this piece on, then we'll do some welding. And then we've got an extended steer tube. That's about halfway right there. So we'll see how much this goes in. That's pretty tight. Okay, that is a good fit. Okay, so this keyway has to go on the back, and we want to line it up. And that looks pretty darn good. Let's try this one. It's a little softer, even though the threads have to get shortened up. Is that a good fit? I think so. That's basically size on size, or maybe half a thou press fit. Okay, TIG welding. All right, using an 045 rod because I've got to fill in a bit of a gap. It's a little easier than using 035, which is what I often use, so 045. I'm trying to get the bead raised up just a little bit, and when I file it down, then it becomes smooth. All right, so that's what it looks like. I call that invisible welding because you don't know it's being welded unless someone tells you or you watch the video. That's our episode for today. Thank you for watching. Mitch and I like coffees. Please buy us coffees. Like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll see you next time.